tonight on Monday Night Live. And for those who are going to listen on playback on Apple, Spotify, and all of those other great places, Amazon, Google, and everywhere else you can find me podcasting. Whenever you hear it, we know you're going to have a good time. And I am at a friend's house, so I've got the best amen corner around.
Amen.
I've got D-Rod here. I've got my girl Lauren here. So some of these topics, I needed somebody else here. I got people you never knew that I needed here. So we are going to get into it. We're going to talk about the Blindside lies, Bravo still being messy, and CBS still hiring racists. So lots to get into tonight. So the first topic we're going to talk about is the Blindside lies. And you're also going to get a little bit of the legal side of this for me. So I've got Lauren, who has the story pulled up for me so that I can be fully apprised. Can I see that for a second? So that I can give it to you straight on what has been going on. Okay, and this is coming from, what website is this? Looks like the Point Clicks Cape. So she just pulled it up anywhere. Didn't even make sure she gave me a People magazine or something. But you know what? It's fine because it's coming from the AP. So we're great.
Okay, cool.
All right. See, you listen to this podcast, you even get the behind the scenes foolishness as well. And if you're watching here on Bigo, you're getting to look me in the face as we do the behind the scenes foolishness, both on the podcast. And then I got D-Rod here. Lauren is going to do the foolishness because
I'm a worker bee, okay?
Okay. That's what she's saying. Okay, so first things first. Now, I've been on, for those who are joining me on the podcast right now, I am on the road and I am staying at a friend's house tonight. So I listened to all of these stories and sort of did all of my research, just absorbing it and having my phone literally play the news being read to me as I was driving. But I always still like to have the stuff in front of me as well, especially when we start talking about legal, where legal issues come in, because where some people don't care, I am an actual lawyer, so I don't play around with giving half-baked facts. Plus, if I'm going to analyze it for you, it is always great for me to make sure that all of this is straight. So, the Blindside lies is what we're calling this, and unfortunately, it's what everybody's calling this. And just as a side note, if you've followed this story in real time, the way some of us, especially those of us of a certain age, have, then you know that there has been grumbling about this situation from Michael Oher himself pretty contemporaneously with the movie coming out. Within, I would say, by the time the movie sort of made it to its Oscar run, you started to hear Michael Oher in particular having issues. Now, at the time, and some of that's going to come up in what I read as well, at the time, one of his major issues is just that he didn't like the way that he was portrayed. Now, as an African American, some of us felt some kind of way because it was yet another white savior story, a la Dangerous Minds and a whole bunch of other ones. But whether you liked the story or didn't like the story, if the story was true, then it is what it is. So you can feel some kind of way about the fact that Hollywood felt the need to give us probably a good 10-year run of these types of movies. But if A, the movie was compelling, and B, if the story was true, what could you do? And in this case, story was compelling. We were under the impression that it was true because it was billed as a true story, and at least at the time, nobody ever said otherwise. And and on top of it, it was well done. I mean, Sandra Bullock actually did win an Oscar for playing the mother who was the primary character in this movie. Because yes, you had the young man, but when you watch the movie, it was still really more about this mother
Being
and
a mother.
everything that she did in terms of rallying the troops, i.e., her family, to take this young man in and getting whatever services he allegedly needed at school. And then, of course, like any other story that's sports based or anything like that, you have the hi mom, situation, especially when it's a sports story and there's a mom involved. Like, it is always the whole hi mom thing, unless mom is
Where's my
literally
mom? Where's
dead.
mom at? Where's
Exactly.
mom at?
Unless mom is literally not in the picture,
But
you
talk
might
about how
get a
black,
dad.
Talk about how black she was. Because we as black women always take in whomever.
Oh, exactly. But that's where the blindside lies
Yes.
comes into play. So let's get into that. We've teased it enough. So Michael Oher, the former NFL tackle known in the movie The Blind Side. So for those of you who have seen it, this was a movie that came out, I believe it was in 2009, right? So this movie came out in 2009. It starred Sandra Bullock. I don't even really remember who else was in it. The person who played the blind side character, who in the real life is Michael Oher, was a relatively unknown actor. I don't even recall what, if anything else, he's been in since then. I'm sure he's been in something, but not standing out to me. But the major name in that, and I think there was some other big names in it. Who were the other stars?
Tim McGraw is the husband.
Okay, Tim McGraw played the husband, and we love Tim McGraw as a singer, but we don't really see him acting very much unless it's a Hallmark movie with his wife Faith Hill. I mean, isn't that the truth? You don't see if you want to see Tim McGraw, you watch a Hallmark Channel movie at Christmas time.
Let's say Christmas. Definitely Christmas.
And again, not hating on
That's
that.
okay. That's okay.
But for him to be in this major Hollywood production, it doesn't matter how big of a country music star he is, and you don't really get much bigger, especially not in 2009.
They could only pay for Sandra Bullock.
Absolutely. Well, there you go. And Tim McGraw, huge name,
yes,
big draw, but
country guy,
yes, yeah. But as an actor, you did not have to pay him Sandra Bullock money.
Yes.
As an actor, for him to be in a major motion picture that ended up
in the country pool.
Yes,
that was his end.
And for him, it was a big thing. You are acting beside Sandra Bullock. Now
you're acting against Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, and she may have not won an Oscar to that point, but let's not get it twisted. Sandy has been Sandying for a long time. I mean, black, white, whatever.
Yes.
Everybody loved them some Sandy Bullock. And now I think she even got some black babies, don't you?
Yes, she did.
Okay. All right. So he was known for the movie The Blind Side, Michael Oher. And I'm going to jump around in this article just to make sure I give you some of the basic facts. So on Monday, today, so that's why this story is popping up everywhere. It's probably already popped up on your timeline. So literally today, August 14th, Michael Oher, or representatives for him, filed a petition to basically resolve or dissolve the conservatorship that he claims is held over him by the family. So the mother and father, Sean and Lee, Sean and Leanne. I mean, you don't get more country than that.
Sean and Leanne. Hold on, but how old is he?
He's
38 now. 37, yeah, 37, 38. Now
it should have ended when he was 25. It should have been terminated at 25.
Now we're going to get into there's a bunch of issues here. Because and some of them don't speak well of Sean either. You didn't like, I'm sorry, Michael either, because you didn't like the way you were portrayed in the movie because you felt that made you look stupid as a high schooler. The fact that you were 37, 38 in this case is just being filed doesn't speak well to whether or not you are actually stupid in real life at 38. And I'm not trying to knock a brother when you're down, but quite frankly, whether or not you look dumb in a movie that portrayed you a certain way when you were a high schooler. Now, signing the conservatorship papers, absolutely
Hold on,
not
hold on.
holding him.
I'm gonna do Forrest Gump.
Okay.
Dumb is dumb.
Well, yeah, but signing the conservatorship papers at 18, you didn't know any better. There are some papers being put in your face. He was absolutely taken advantage of.
Absolutely.
No doubt whatsoever.
Opportunist moment.
Yes, and they took advantage of the fact that he was 18, therefore legally able to make contracts, because until you're 18, no matter what state you live in, because that contract needs to be enforceable wherever you go. So until you are 18, you are not supposed to be able to legally sign contracts, and certainly not a document that will hold you legally bound to certain conditions. So the fact that they waited till he was 18, quite strategic, because he was living with them before he was 18. Yeah. So if the whole thing was, we're going to adopt you, we want a guardianship, we want this and we want that, and we're going to adopt you and we want this over you, they didn't have to wait until he was 18 to do that, especially considering that he was already living with them. Even if there was some issues about related to, and there would have been, because I have spent many, many years in juvenile and domestic relations court. Even if there were issues about who would have the legal right to sign him over to the Tuohys, that still is something that could have been resolved in court. I believe by then both of his parents were no longer in the picture. They may have, I think the father was incarcerated and the mother was deceased.
Yes, they were. Yes, that's
so
correct.
Given that he would have, if he wasn't already in the custody of social services, he would have switched over into the custody of social services, and depending on where he was on the road to 18, if they ended up just emancipating him, that happens all the time, especially with kids who are under the supervision of the Department of Social Services, if it is deemed appropriate and they are able to take care of themselves. I don't think that was an issue with him. He had found a way to live pillar to post for years, living with friends and other families. So in his own way, he was taking care of himself already.
And staying in school.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, goes back to the point of you taking advantage of someone who was vulnerable in age, vulnerable mentally, and I don't mean mentally because he may have had delays. I mean vulnerable mentally from an emotional standpoint. Because at that point, he's grateful to you. Well, he had been neglected.
He's grateful for
but he's also grateful. You are showing him love. You are taking care of him. They showed it in the movie, so they can't deny it. It was their story. And he talked about it too, how they bought him clothing, how they set the brother up.
That's to give a little to get a lot.
Okay. That's the grooming, is what that is. Okay, grooming to take advantage of you, because it doesn't necessarily have to. You don't have to groom somebody to take care of them sexually. You could groom somebody to take advantage of them in any way.
So I'm having a hard time with that, because yes, they were grooming him, but do you think that they were doing it from a perspective that they wanted to take advantage of?
According to him, yes.
Well, unfortunately, as we get into what happened, it's looking that way because of the type of paperwork that was filed. Because these people were not stupid.
In his likeness, they're profiting from that. He's not.
Yeah, and also they were not stupid. These were not uneducated people. No. Okay, so all right, so he is accusing Sean and Leanne Tuohy, Michael is, of lying to him by having him sign papers making them his conservators rather than his adoptive parents nearly 2 decades ago. Okay, so let's explore that, because the language that is being used here is really important. For those of you who are in the room, make sure you are sending those hearts and sending those beams. So the language that's used here is really important, because we're talking about a conservatorship, essentially a guardianship. And there's we've talked about this on this show before, because there has been some very recent, spectacularly huge cases in the news that have gone on in the past 3 or 4 years at least that we've talked about on this very show. The biggest, most recent examples were Britney Spears and Wendy Williams.
Mm-hmm.
So there's also a reason why they go through the courts they go through. Like this goes through probate court and other places. It depends on the state that you're in, what court they go through. Because in other states, mine being one of them, they may go through the court that deals with family issues, especially if the person is considered a vulnerable age. Okay, so there are a couple of types of conservatorships. There are conservatorships that are purely financial, where you're saying the person can pretty much take care of themselves in every other respect, but we have some concerns about how they handle their finances. Now, there are so many abuses in that regard. We definitely have seen it. We've watched it in horror with the Britney Spears case. And her conservator was her father. So that just makes it even more trifling. And of course, it is currently ongoing with the Wendy Williams situation. There's also conservatorships that go well beyond the financial, where you are saying this person is unable to make any decisions whatsoever for themselves. So the conservator has to be involved and have tentacles in every aspect of their lives. So that is the type that Britney Spears' father had, which is why decisions such as her choice of birth control, where she went on vacations and things like that, which of course impacted her ability to spend time with her children, and whether or not she could even get married. So that was damn near global. I mean, they don't call it that, but that's essentially what it is. Whereas it sounds like, and I'm going to pull the documents on this, so this won't be the only time we talk about this, but it sounds like the Tuohys had one that dealt with his ability to make contracts. And of course, if you're dealing with someone's ability to make contracts, so contractual decision making, then you're typically dealing with their ability to make money, whether they're receiving it from someone else or they're making the money on their own. So that is pretty serious. So in or on or about, I guess, since we're going back nearly 20 years, so this being 2023, in fact, I read this earlier, or I listened to this earlier. So 2004, when he was 18, this was after he had already lived with the Tuohys for a period of time. They came to him with documentation, asking him, telling him, we want to adopt you. Again, all the love bombing, right? Mm-hmm. You live with us. We love you. You're playing football.
You're part of the family.
You're part of the family. You got the clothes.
We can't do without you.
All of that. So, and they provided this 18-year-old with documents that, according to his complaint in the Shelby County Court, that those documents, he believed that those documents were geared towards an adoption, or because adults can be adopted, people do it all the time, an adoption or a guardianship, but not the guardianship like a Britney Spears or a Wendy Williams, or the bullshit that we're talking about that they did, but a guardianship where somebody is your legal guardian. Now, of course, at 18, he wouldn't necessarily need that. But let me tell you, as someone who has an adult child, 18 means nothing. Okay. Plus, you also have to remember that, like some of the rest of us in this room who have grown kids, that especially if your kids are going to school, you are still taking care of them. And remember, he was about to go to college. He was about to go to college. So if your kids are going to school, not only is your mindset that they are still very much in kind of kid parent mode, but so is their mindset that they are in kid parent mode. So if you are a young man, this is your family, this is your home, you're about to go to school, but it's understood what do our kids do when they go to school? Holidays, summer vacations, whatever, you go home, your home is with your family. Well, we're signing these papers to make clear that we are what? A family. So he signs what actually ended up being a conservatorship that dealt with, and I'm gonna lean on Lauren for this one because she's got the laptop, but the conservatorship that dealt with his financial decision making and ability to contract.
Yes, accounting of the money and earnings of his name and story.
Okay, so we're talking name, image, and likeness.
Yes.
So, which is we know that's a huge issue.
It's huge now.
Yes,
But
because
2009 it was not.
Exactly. But also it not only was it not an issue in 2009, but remember, we're still not even talking about it. See, the way that we talk about name, image, and likeness, or NIL, as you all hear me refer to it, when we talk about NIL now in 2023, we're usually talking about people, these young people, in relation to their schools, their universities' abilities to make money off of them.
But they're trying to change that.
Well, they have. It's just rolling out very slowly, but it has changed. They now have the rights to that. So these kids that are coming up into the mix now, going to these schools that we know people are going to want their jerseys because they're going to want to say, we knew you win before you went to the NBA or NFL, like a Bronny James, and is it Bronny or Bronny? Bronny.
Bronny.
Although that's a whole other story. We won't get into it, but that's a whole other rabbit hole. So anyway, this isn't even that. I would actually be okay if this argument was about this young man's NIL as it relates to the school.
Him being compensated, yes.
Yeah, him being compensated as it relates to the school. We're talking about him being compensated, or rather, we haven't even got to the money yet. Him being controlled, because before you get to the money, the fact that they have this over you is a control thing. Mm-hmm. Right? I mean, because why else would you do it? You're doing it just in case.
That's 400 years of you being controlled.
And 400 years. Okay, you better preach, D-Rod. Because see, that's when it gets deep and ugly.
It's a fine buck here, isn't it? He's going to produce a whole lot of babies, labor. What else?
Okay, and he's working in them fields. Okay, what's the difference between a cotton field and a football field?
Nothing.
Not grass. A damn thing.
Grass.
Because those players talk about that all the time.
Absolutely.
And now we're talking about even the pro players talk about this. Okay.
And saying buck, they say stud.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and trust and believe, when these young men visit the schools, the fact that the schools make sure that the young bucks see what they need to see, because I can tell you, when I went on college visits with my son, he was not even a college athlete, but just to make sure that those boys saw eye candy, it was nothing but cheerleaders and stuff. In fact, at one school we visited, they even had us attend a game, and the cheerleaders descended like freaking roaches on into the stand.
Yep.
Wait a minute, but they took it a step further. Not only were they dressed in their little collegiate cheer outfits, which we know is a whole other level, but handing out Domino's pizza. Now you're giving the boys pizza and booty. Free pizza and titty.
Pizza and booty party.
There you go. Pizza and booty party.
I love Friday. Wait.
Okay.
I love your
Been there, done that.
I was like, is this Hooters? Like what?
No. Hey, Hooters has some standards.
Okay, all right. Okay, and I'm not hating. I like them wings. So only in certain states, though. But anywho, so this young man signs this conservatorship. Now, he plays for, what school did he play for? One of the big Southern schools.
He was in Alabama, I believe.
Okay. Oh, Lord, don't say he was playing for Alabama.
Let's not call him out.
Oh, Lord, don't say he was playing for Alabama.
We
Jesus, don't call them out. Just
don't call on Alabama.
School down south. Don't call on Alabama.
So he did play for a Southern school. He was in Tennessee, so he played for one of the schools down south, and ultimately got drafted to the Baltimore Ravens. Now, again, as D-Rod and I were discussing earlier, his career with the Ravens. Okay, so he went to Mississippi, Ole Miss. Okay,
went to Baltimore Ravens.
All right.
And then he went to Tennessee.
Okay, so he played for the Ravens for how long?
The family was split between two schools. Remember, it was Ole Miss and something else. Okay, go ahead.
So, how long did he play for the Ravens? Because he didn't have a very long career.
He spent 5 seasons with the Ravens,
but he wasn't like a superstar.
No. He played 11 games with Tennessee.
Okay, so 5 years with the Ravens.
And he finished in Carolina, 2 years in Carolina.
Went on to Tennessee, played 11 games, 2 years in Carolina. And let's face it, he had a bigger name in terms of people knowing who he was because of this movie than anything, because this contract was signed when he was 18 in 2004, which means that, he went to school, then he was drafted. So by the time the movie came out in 2009, he was already in the NFL. And even then, I didn't know who he was. Now, granted, I'm not a big sports person, but I got a lot of big sports fanatics around me. And they were like, he's, I guess we heard of him.
The top offers were Tennessee, LSU, Alabama, Auburn, and South Carolina.
Mm-hmm. And then he went to Ole Miss.
Yes.
Okay. So, all right, so we know, so that was his career. The bottom line is we knew that he was in the NFL when the movie came out. Not a superstar. We know these teams are huge. The league has a bunch of people, and he was just one of them. I would venture to say that he did not make the kind of money that was going to sustain him for years and years and years outside of the NFL, because he was not a superstar when he was in the NFL. But, he probably made more money than the UPS guy. So, hey, it is what it is. But he's definitely not somebody who was going to leave the NFL and not have to do something to take care of himself and his family. And that's fine. That's life. You have one career, you have another. Okay, so moving on. The movie comes out in 2009, and it is based on a book that Leanne, Rebecca Joe, Trudy Lee, Ruth Ann, and we shouldn't,
Suzanne.
We shouldn't make too much fun, because in my family, we got Lula Mae, Dorothy Mae. What is up with black people got a May on everybody's name?
Or a Lynn.
Lynn, Lord have mercy, Lynn. And then if you were born in the early 1970s, then your middle name was Denise, because I swear me and all my best friends got, our middle name is the same. Okay. So what happens next? The movie comes out, and now are you ready for the kicker? Donna, are you ready?
I'm ready.
Because see, D-Rod did not hear this part of it. The family, the mother, the father, and the 2 kids. So now the 2 kids are in the mix. Each got $225,000 for their rights to the story, their rights to the story, because they're a part of it. So you have intellectual property rights for their rights to the story. Plus, and I'm going to hope, because they were unknowns. The studio would have never made a deal if it was for each of them. So I'm assuming the next part was something that was for them as a whole. 2.25% of the gross, of the proceeds. Now, that
Who
may
was
not.
The agent? Who was the agent?
Well, whoever the agent was the bomb, because nobody knew who these people were.
Girl, boy, or indifferent. They were the sugar honey iced tea.
They absolutely were, because nobody knew who these people were. And yes, the book was popular enough that a major studio, because we're not talking about Lifetime or CBS or somebody trying to do
it's
a movie
major
of the
studio.
week. A major studio. That's what I'm saying. A major studio bought the rights to this book. That yes, it was successful, but it wasn't like 15, 20 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list, because at the end of the day, it was still yet another story about some white people saving a black man. And that's only gonna go but so far on the housewives circuit in the suburbs, because
we aren't moved by it.
Yeah, and I was getting ready to say, because trust me, it wasn't sisters reading this book, and we damn sure know it wasn't brothers reading the book, because even if they did have a brother book club, they weren't reading some bullshit like that.
I was just thinking.
Double check, because it might have been. She's checking to see if that was the year the Sandusky shit went down too. The Penn State drama.
Damn.
But the bottom line is, the book had a very niche audience, and because of the book's niche audience, you don't know how that is going to translate on screen, Sandra Bullock or not. In fact, that is why you get a Sandra Bullock in hopes of selling the movie.
It's broken on 9.
Okay.
What?
So the Sandusky shit in Penn State came out the same year.
He got in 2011, but the case broke open in 2009.
Yes. Yeah, because they've been having the booty parties for years. And in that case, booty parties with dudes. So, anywho, now let's talk about that 2.25%. Now, 2.25% may not sound like much, especially in light of the fact that
if you're talking about
$10. Exactly.
If you're talking about $2 billion.
Exactly. Especially
10% of $2 billion.
So we're going to have our researcher over here, Lauren, to do some math for us. Because
2%,
ultimately
2% of $2 billion.
We're talking
My calculator doesn't go that big.
No. I'm going to tell you what the number is, because I already know what the number is.
Is that $4 million?
300. This movie made $330 million.
Wow.
I didn't even realize it made that much money. But I think, as what often happens, is because of the Oscar buzz and her ultimately winning the Oscar, you also have to remember that this is pre-screening. Pre-streaming. So you don't have but what I'm saying is you don't have the losses.
I'm about to do Kanye and Taylor Swift.
Girl. So you don't have the losses to movies that, or rather, not the losses, but you don't have the hit.
What was out that same year?
Who the hell knows? Yeah. But you don't have the same hit that movies are taking now because of streaming, because streaming, of course, impacts people going to theaters.
That's true.
You didn't have any of that. This is 2009. This is pre-Netflix in your house. I can't remember if Netflix was around in 2009. I believe they were, but at that point, you were still getting your CDs from the supermarket.
Absolutely.
Remember, that's how we originally became acquainted with Netflix. Now, they still managed to put Blockbuster out of business, but that was just because it was like 1 cent. Okay, so we're talking 2.25% of $330 million, which I would guarantee you that studio or production company never dreamed that movie would make, or they would not have given these random mofos 2.25%, because that is a lot of money, especially when you consider that the caliber of that the level and the caliber that Sandra Bullock's career was at that time. She also would get back in, because we're talking, this was Sandra Bullock post Miss Congeniality, post Speed, all of that. So she's at the top of her game at that point.
She knew.
Yeah, she was at the top of her game at that point. She didn't know. Well, nobody could have imagined it was going to make that amount of money.
She knew her work on it.
She knew her work.
No, but she also, I'm going to give it to her. I feel like it wasn't just the money. I feel like her lifestyle and everything she felt, because she had a whole bunch of brown babies.
Oh, yeah. Well, no, I'm not knocking Sandra Bullock. What I'm saying is that just when we talk about these back end deals, studios are not in the business of giving away money. We've watched what they do to people just in the music industry. Mm-hmm. Let's not even get into what they're doing to the actors and the writers right now.
Sure.
So I'm simply saying that, again, that $330 million was a shock to everyone. And we know that the production budget was only but so big. Mm-hmm. And we also know that even the promotion budget was only but so big, because, again, we're still just talking about yet another white lady who wrote a book about how she helped some big black boy. We'd already didn't we already see that movie in the 90s with Dangerous Minds?
Big Black Dumb Boy.
Exactly, because they not just played Big Black Boy. They played him Big Black and Dumb. I ain't saying that you are, Michael. I'm just saying I agree with you. They clowned your ass in that movie.
That's how it looked.
They clowned your ass in that movie. Okay? They had you walking around looking like nobody knows.
Yes, I'm answering.
Yeah, exactly. So if you were upset, I feel you. Okay, so all of that money, did we figure it out? I think it's something like, isn't it somewhere around like $6 million, something like that?
It's like 5.7 something. Yeah.
That's a lot of money for some random ass people, and mind you, and their kids.
Exactly.
So you walking away, your family's already walking away with almost $1 million from the initial deal. Mm-hmm. We're talking $225,000 for mommy, daddy, and the two kids. So that's a huge chunk by itself. Now, of course, that back end money didn't come till later when the movie made money, and whatever residual since then. And let's not get it twisted. Folks may just go and run out and watch the movie now, which will also get them more money. The only thing that we can hope now with them not getting more money is that if people do go and watch it, they'll watch it on a streaming service, in which case we know the streaming services ain't giving nobody shit. Once again, that's why the strike and stuff is going on right now. Okay, now jumping ahead, I know that you're like, okay, Jonda, y'all have harped on this money for 15 minutes. Well, why have we harped on it? Not just because it was so much money, but because Michael didn't get $225,000. Michael did not get a back-end deal for $2.25 million. Lauren, what was Michael's deal for?
$225,000.
Okay, did Michael get anything else? No. Did Michael get a back-end deal? No. Okay, so Michael allegedly, because according to his complaint, there's some questions about that. Michael allegedly got $225,000 too, although we're going to put a question mark next to that. But Michael did not get a back-end deal. Why are we negotiating for Michael? For not just the mama, but for the daddy and the kids. Now, of course, the mama and the daddy, they're primary in the movie.
Okay.
I don't think the kids needed $225,000, but now it makes sense, because if you remember the movie, they did try to shove a whole lot of the daughter in there and some friendship they have with them. Because I was getting a little concerned, even as a viewer, when I'm watching the movie and seeing so much with him and the sister. Because
she got paid originally for the book too. He got nothing from the book.
Oh, no, he didn't get shit from the book.
Okay.
Oh, and by the way...
Just so we're clear.
Oh, and by the way, Mama has written another book since.
I'm just reading.
Mama has wrote another book after that.
Wow.
Because at that point, once you are that popular and you are appearing on every talk show and you're getting appearance fees and you're going and you're doing the lecture circuit and you're getting paid $100,000 for every speech, well, we got to keep it going, because we're only going to be able to ride on this for so long.
For so long, yeah.
And all those handbags and stuff that I bought, and my Kate Plus 8 hairdo, got to be kept up, because she did have that Kate Plus 8 hair for a minute. You know she had that Kate Plus 8 hairdo for a hot minute.
She did.
She may not have kept it, but she had it. Okay. So I almost said Mary Kay Letourneau, but it was Kate plus 8. You know, she had the asymmetrical hairdo that you see. But I usually see black girls did it when they're dating I'm sorry. I was going to say, you usually, when I see it in court is when I'm dealing with white women who are dating or have kids by black men. So, you know, when I have a white girl named Katie, yes, her name Katie, who comes in with a child named Trayshawn and Travante.
I digress. Let's go back to storyline.
Exactly.
Y'all a lot. I digress.
Okay.
Let's go back.
Yes, because we still got another story to tell. Okay, so he got nothing. So years went by. His relationship with them is obviously strained. He is married and he has kids, right? He's 38. So now at this point, now this is probably going to sound a little shady, but why else would you tune in if I didn't say the things that nobody really wants to say?
Let's go.
At 38, my guess is that Michael may be a little financially strapped.
Absolutely.
Michael has not played football in a very long time.
Absolutely.
And now at this point, when no one is looking to buy the Blindside Part 2, Michael's Revenge.
Amen.
Michael and his attorney are looking at their options.
Amen.
Now, that being said, he has every freaking right to do so.
Yep. Ain't nobody mad.
My personal opinion about the timing of it, no less valid, but I also feel like he has every right to do so, because at the end of the day, if there is a conservatorship over this man or on this that has never been dissolved, which is crazy to me, because it has been almost 20 years. And the conservatorship, by the way, was not based on mental or physical incapacity. It was literally signed simply because they handed him the papers and asked him to do it.
People funny.
Now, because I mentioned Britney Spears earlier, I think it's always important, because of what people assume they know about that case, to point out something there as well that most people don't know because of the things that have been said about her and some of the ways that she's behaved. The reason why Britney's new lawyer, when she finally got a new lawyer, was able to get that conservatorship flipped and tossed out so fast is because when they went back and looked at the original paperwork, Britney's original conservatorship was voluntary.
Ooh,
it was not.
Hold on. It wasn't the 1 billion streaming.
What do you mean?
She got 1 billion streaming on that song.
Oh well, yeah. Well, that's why Dad wanted to keep her on it, because he gets the money. But people assume that the original paperwork that she signed or that was signed was because of things that were going on at the time. No. They did something with her very similar, brought her some papers. And again, because at the time, if we knew nothing else about Britney Spears, we knew that she loved them babies. Now, they got a strained relationship now, but we knew that for sure then. Mm-hmm. Britney made sure everybody knew she loved them babies. She agreed because she knew that she was spiraling. And so they said to her, we need to do this to take care of you, so that you can do what you need to do to take care of them. So she agreed to it, and it was supposed to be temporary, and they flipped it on her and made it permanent. Yeah. Although there was never an original showing that she had a mental defect. Now, had they had a hearing, they probably would have been able to make that showing. But they didn't. Now, of course, there's a whole conversation to be had, which we'll do on another day, about the fact that no one ever does this to men, and that this is a very specifically, insidiously sexist way that this is done. And
crazy girl outside here.
Okay. But
I just had a minute. I'm gonna come
back. Hold on.
Sometimes we just have minutes.
I totally understand.
Day, that crazy girl.
Sometimes we just need a minute. We just
and I'm sure it's male provoked.
Hello.
Okay.
And in her case, it was
her daddy.
It was Kevin and her daddy.
Double trouble.
Day.
Double trouble.
That crazy bitch outside again.
Exactly. So
we have done that. I ain't mad at
So
her.
we already knew. So anyway, coming back to this, but I always like pointing that out because this is yet another example of somebody signing something voluntarily, and in his case, voluntarily, and we can pretty much say without even being there, terribly uninformed.
Mm-hmm.
And it biting them on the ass, and that is extremely unfortunate because he was just taken advantage of, just point blank into the period.
I'm gonna go back to it again. Day, that crazy bitch is outside.
There you go.
Y'all better get her. She keying up your car. She's doing everything.
Well,
and only because y'all made her crazy.
Well, I tell you what, the Tuohys done made Michael crazy.
Absolutely.
Or at least Michael's wife. Because a lot of times when stuff goes down, it's not because of him. It's because of her.
Yep.
I would not be surprised if the way the conversation really went down was him going, you know what? It's no big deal. I don't deal with them. They don't deal with me. Because remember that everybody always talks about how he has a very gentle personality.
Mm-hmm.
I could see if he's one of them dudes who was going, you know what? They haven't done anything in recent years. I don't F with them. They don't F with me. If they want to make their little money trying to ride this, whatever. But you got a wife who will say, yeah, no.
Pillow talk.
Yeah, no, because you know what? We got these babies. Mm-hmm. So if anybody is going to be eating off of you, the blind side, your blind cousin, or anything else, it's going to be us and these babies up in here.
That pillow talk is strong. And
the pillow talk is strong. The pillow talk is strong. And let's get it real. The kitchen talk is too. Don't let her be standing there stirring a pot with a ladle in her hand.
Yeah.
And he talking that let it go nonsense. Because it is not above us to literally be holding it in the air with the sauce dripping on the floor going, yeah, that's not how we're going to do that.
It's going down.
Okay. So it is, I don't think that this is going to be pretty. I think that one or two things need to happen.
I want to take an opinion.
Okay, go ahead.
I want to take an opinion. If I was this girl.
Uh-huh. If she was his girl,
I would be going ham.
Absolutely, you go ham.
But on the other side of that is, what do we do next?
Oh well, we know what they're doing next. They filed a lawsuit.
He filed.
They filed. Well, we're calling it a lawsuit, but essentially what they did was they filed a petition to have the conservatorship dissolved. Now the reality,
then he can go into the rights and royalties.
Exactly.
Back into that.
Yeah. Okay. Now, there are definitely, it will speak volumes, in my opinion, although I can't imagine that many people would disagree. It will speak volumes if the family doesn't simply say, why, of course, I'm sorry. And even from a public relations standpoint, of course, I'm sorry. We did not do this for the reasons that you're assuming that we did it, but now that it has come to light, yeah. But I'm saying what they will say. The smart move for this, for the family, both public relations wise.
Hold on. You playing chess?
Well, I'm trying to for them because I'm giving them what you are getting now from me is what we call the Just John Daesq School of Public Relations.
Yes, playing chess.
Now, the smart move for them would be to simply have their attorney file a response saying, we do not object to the dissolution of this conservatorship. We were not even aware that it was still in place because given
25, it was terminated.
Yes, given the fact that he is 38 and evidenced by the fact that we have not, we're going to hope that we have not interfered with his life or any contracts or anything that he has done in the past however many years.
Agree.
that there's just no reason for us to fight about this. Now that would be the smart move. And quite frankly, any other move than that would not only speak volumes about them, but it would just be so incredibly stupid on so many different levels, because there's no winning in all of this for them. Even if we let's put the whole blindside money thing on the shelf and just purely just humans, just being a decent human being.
Be kind.
Exactly.
Be kind.
There is no winning for them in this, and under any circumstance. Okay. This man has there's no mental or physical disability, not to mention the fact that he is married with a life and kids and family of his own. And all this does for them to object to it in any way is keep the story going. And there is nothing about this story that is going to be positive as it relates to them. I mean, just absolutely nothing.
Yeah, if your original motive was all pure and decent intent,
just be kind.
What's the problem?
No, you're going back to the same thing. Just be, if you were being kind, if your original intent was for you to be kind, that's the bottom line.
And but this is the thing, and I agree with you, but even if their original intent wasn't to be kind, shut it down. Even if their original intent is what everybody is assuming it was, what the internet is skewering them about, what every newscast and talk show, even when you read the articles that are supposed to be giving this, telling it from a neutral perspective, like Lauren pulled up an article that was written by the AP, the Associated Press, not People Magazine, not TMZ, whatever, just boilerplate. This is what happened. Even with a reporter who, for just the basic news agency, Reuters, whatever, who is just there to give you the facts, it's hard to even read it without feeling askew in one direction, even if the reporter didn't mean it, because there is absolutely nothing about this that makes them look good. I mean, just nothing. Okay, so you all, we're going to take a pause there, especially for the podcast audience. I am going to come back with a part 2 because we've gone an hour talking about the blind side. We're going to continue to follow that story. I'm going to pull the petition, and if there's anything that we may have missed, I'll certainly hit you back with that. But in our next episode, which we're going to do a part 2, we're going to move on to Bravo is still messy and CBS is still hiring racists. So I know you love listening. I know you love the way that we tell the story, and we love telling it to you. So definitely come back to part 2 of Monday Night Live. And for those of you who are listening live, don't go anywhere, because another episode is coming right behind us. Again, part 2 of Monday Night Live, news, gossip, and more. For my podcast audience, you know I love you. You know you love me. So make sure you continue to come back and you follow me on all platforms. You better go to Apple and listen. I don't care if you let it play in your house while you're walking around doing laundry, but you go, you listen to it, you give it 5 stars in a review, and you tell them how much you love me, damn it. You do the same thing on Spotify and Google, and make sure that our show is reaching the heights that some shows that are nowhere near as good as us get to. And all the other platforms, they are all listed in the info box. If you want to support the show, you also have the information for Venmo and Cashapp in that box as well, because, hey, we put in work with this show. Other than that, if you want to hear and continue to follow, know what I'm doing every day, hang with a best audience in the world that talks all kinds of trash every day. Go to the Fashion and Drama Diaries on Facebook. You will see the link in the bio. We've got now over 2,700 people that are in there daily from all over the world. Shout out to Africa and Australia. You all are my peeps. And it's just lots and lots of fun. And as always, remember, if you're talking about it, or rather, if you're thinking about it and you want to talk about it, chances are I'm thinking about it and I want to talk about it too. So let's be honest together. Good night.